This is your job, Corey.
I forget that that's a thing. I don't know.
I watch the French movies that win Cannes, and you'll remember when the Marvel shows drop. I thought that's the deal we made.
Honestly, that makes me sound like I'm not holding up my end of the deal.
Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello. This is Che.
This is Corey.
And this is the Next Time On Podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fetid in popular culture. Today, we will obviously be discussing the 13-year reign of dried up raisin Joe Manchin, who has announced he's crawling into a hole and returning to hell where he belongs.
AKA West Virginia.
Fortunately, we are not actually talking about the shriveled remains of Joe Manchin,
Thank
who
God.
sold his soul and his constituents for coal money for the last decade and a half.
So long.
We'll be talking about fire-ass TV instead. Loki and Invincible Season 2, which, personally, I never thought was coming. It was like the never-ending Season 2.
When I was thinking about Season 2 coming out, I'm like, where was I? When did I even watch it? I mean, it was over the pandemic. Yeah. I've moved twice. I've that whole couple breakdowns in between that. I've been on 2 shows that's been canceled. I've had a fucking journey since the last season of Invincible.
It was pretty early, so I'm looking right now. So it premiered March 2021, ended April 2021. We got a special, Invincible Adam Eve, earlier this year in July. So between April 2021 and July 2023, there's just no Invincible, which is so weird to me because like the real benefit to studios for shows like this is that they're pretty easy to churn out, and they just didn't churn them out for 2 years.
What I have to assume is that, especially watching the first episode, is the animation budget looks so much better for season 2.
Okay, but come on, Corey. 2 years.
Oh no, I'm not making up for that. I'm just saying that, at least to me, that there was some kind of solace. They didn't come back looking exactly the same. It looked exactly the same. It's been 2 years. I'm like, what the fuck were you doing? It wasn't a terribly complicated show to animate the first time around.
Before we do the real beat of the episode, don't forget, follow us at Next Time On Pod on our social media platforms, including over there on YouTube. If you're over there on YouTube right now, which you can get to by going to youtube.com/@nexttimeonpod, like everywhere we are. Don't forget to subscribe and like and all that good stuff. And if you are watching and reading along, one of which you should be doing, the other one you don't need to bother with. Book club coming up in the next few weeks is going to be Do a Powerbomb by Daniel Warren Johnson. And our Curse the Rewatch is The Santa Claus, starring the snitch Tim Allen, by John Pasquin. Not to be confused with the currently ongoing Disney Plus television show that he didn't know existed.
It's got a second season?
The Santa Clauses?
I think this is the second season of it.
Yes, it is the second season of it, which I found out when I went to turn on Disney Plus to go watch the last episode of Loki, and it said, new season of The Santa Clauses, which stars the snitch Tim Allen, including man who I forgot existed, Gabriel Iglesias. Also as Santa Claus. I mean, technically he's apparently credited as Kris Kringle, but... what's going on, Disney?
I got no answers for that one. The entirety of what you just said upset me.
It's so weird. I mean, I guess somebody must have watched this show, because why would there be a second season of it?
I guess to assume, there has to be. I do think the first Santa Claus, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking forward to actually rewatching it because I'm probably sure I'm going to tear it to shreds. But as a kid, I remember freaking loving it. So I'm assuming there must have been some nostalgia there, but not enough to make 2 seasons. Why do you need a fucking Santa Claus TV show in the first place? That's the thing about holiday movies. You put them on once for the family, then you keep them moving. I don't want to do this weekly.
The idea it is the true side of the dominance of the small screen in our modern society, that there's a holiday television show, which I agree with you, sounds pretty awful. Like, even if it's 6 half-hour episodes, 3 hours of Christmas shit, and that's like the minimum we're talking. It's probably closer to 10 episodes. We're looking at 5+ hours of fucking Christmas
and
content.
That's not, and we all know it's not going to be good. No. So it's bad content for 6 hours.
Then again, there are people who watch, like, doesn't Hallmark release like one fucking Christmas movie a day for the next 2 months or something like that?
That's fair.
There are people
But I
who are
feel
just
like
watching all of those.
I think Hallmark falls into a weird category. We have people who actually enjoy it, and then people who are like, "This is so bad, it's good."
Yeah.
I don't know who has that for the Santa Claus. The Santa Claus. I don't even like Santa Claus Eye. It's what is it? What are we doing here?
We are 3 Santa Clauses movies in, 1 apparently short film, True Confessions of the Legendary Figures. This is all according to the Wikipedia article, and then 2 seasons of a television show. Disney Plus, the channel the streaming service that canceled Willow, has made 2 seasons of the Santa Claus. I'm gonna put
They canceled Willow.
a minute on the clock, and Corey is going to pitch something that is, I would say, nothing like Willow.
No, it's not. But I think it's been pushed on everybody who owns HBO Max.
Every
I'm
time
sorry.
I turn on the
Everybody
show.
who has Max, I'm sure you've seen it. So here's my pitch to actually watch it. So the show I'm talking about now is this show called Scavenger's Reign. It's on Max, like I said. It's a 12 episode, 20-minute series. So it's already over now. But the basic pitch of it, well, the whole idea about the show is a group of individuals who are working on a spaceship or marooned on an alien planet, but the alien planet is incredibly hostile and out to get them. What the show kind of is, though, is this weird middle ground of exploring a strange new world, but also a lot of horror that could exist behind it. If you ever seen Annihilation, I feel like this is the TV show version of that, if you're ever interested in it. But it's a very, very solid cosmic horror series that I basically watched half of last night. I'm not done with it just yet. But it's very, very solid. It's got a really good cast on it. And the animation itself, it's like a Mobius book brought to life. I mean, the way that they've created this setting is just so fucking well done. And the style of the animation is actually really cool. I thought the poster kind of made it look like it was 3D, but it's not, which is a very big plus. You don't see that very often. But I recommend it if you're in the mood to watch some fucked up shit.
Yeah, like Corey said, there's Max is really getting behind this, which I think indicates one of 2 things. One, they truly believe the show is excellent, like Corey is saying, and I believe it. Or they are out of content that isn't like House
Well, if
Hunters or whatever.
you haven't noticed, Che, it's only been animation for everything, because now the strike's over now.
The strike's over, which again we probably should have talked about that a bit. Very, very exciting. I hope that the actors. I didn't look into the details of all the deals. But
I didn't
it sounds
either.
like they were pretty happy with what they got. It's a tentative deal. I really hope that we're not back here in like 2 or 3 years with the studios doing this all over again. But for the time being, for the time being, it is good. I will say, you say it's all animation. They basically entirely buried Doom Patrol, which
That's such a shame.
judging by the fact that the series finale was yesterday and the 2 of us are not talking about it, I think that proves to you that maybe they buried it for
We
a
will
reason.
do.
I really like this show. I think it's a lot
I
of
do
fun.
not know when, but we will do some type of Doom Patrol retrospective at some point. I don't know when. I don't want to make a promise to go power through that entire show. But honestly, I've been watching a lot of TV now because I have a lot of time on my hands. And if you have any job openings, please email us. I need a job. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, it's been it's been a very turbulent time for the movie and television industries. I'm glad that it is.
Yeah, it seems like we're kind of getting to the
over. Like we're in like maybe a good place for a bit.
Yeah, it would be nice to kind of get back to the whole the whole making of all this stuff and the excitement behind it, rather than just being concerned about the business behind these things that we like.
I have the same sort of reaction with like sports, where especially you see it in the Premier League, which is my favorite league. I am both cursed and lucky enough to be a Manchester United fan, in that I am cursed because they are dog shit and have been dog shit for quite a while. But I am lucky in that they are not owned by an oil brutal state regime. And you see this with like I said, with sports, it's just the things you love get bastardized by capitalism and evil billionaires, and the same thing has happened with TV movies. I try not to think about the fact that like this thing I love, which I'm about to pitch a movie that I absolutely adored, that it has been co-opted and bastardized by awful people. But that is the nature of the world we live in, unfortunately. Nothing is. It's like The Good Place said. You can't really do anything. You can't even go buy a tomato without deducting points from your good score. So, should I talk about this movie about murder?
Let's do it.
The thing I am pitching, minute on the clock. I went to the theaters a couple times the last few weeks. Saw some excellent movies, including David Fincher's The Killer, which I'm not pitching today. That movie is sick. I think it is officially
It's out today
on Netflix now. Okay, so if you can go watch it at home. I recommend it if you're in if it's still in a theater near you. Go see it on the big screen if you can. I understand if you just want to boot it up on your TV at home, just don't watch it on your fucking phone. But the thing I am pitching is Anatomy of a Fall, the Palme d'Or winner this year at Cannes. The Justine Triet, I think, French director. Hope I'm not butchering her name too bad. Excellent courtroom drama. I love courtroom dramas. They are one of those things that had a big peak in like the 70s, 80s, a little bit into the 90s, and it sort of died out a lot of like the way that the Westerns did in the 50s and 60s, and we just sort of burnt out on them. We don't have a lot of courtroom dramas until it feels like this is the year of courtroom dramas. We got a bunch of really excellent ones all out at the same time. This was my favorite. I think this movie is so interesting. It is the story of a woman who is accused of killing her husband and who the only witness, in hard air quotes, is her blind son, and is the story of her arrest and the trial around it. And it really wants you to examine the nature of guilt and women's place in society, and it is anchored by an incredible performance by Sandra Hüller, who I don't think I've ever seen anything, and is fantastic in this movie. It is very much in the contention for the Oscars this year. I think I would be very surprised if it doesn't get nominated for Best Picture, and Hüller doesn't get nominated for Best Actress at the very least. So if you're anywhere where you can see this movie, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. One of my favorites of the year so far, for sure.
I need to give it a chance because I saw the description of it and I was like, oh, this seems like a cool mystery. And I'm like, oh, it's a courtroom drama. Then I'm like, I'll watch that eventually.
You don't like courtroom dramas? That's
I do, but
okay.
Che, you understand? I just like mysteries more.
It is. Well, I will say. So the movie. It's not really spoiling anything. The movie opens. The first thing you see is the movie opens with a website, didshedoit.com, which I think a little bit spoils the ending in that it is not. The movie does not tell you really one way or the other for sure if she did it. So it is a little bit of a mystery and a mystery, whether or not you believe it. But it is certainly more about the characters and her relationship with her son and her relationship with her deceased husband, and we get some of that in flashbacks. And I actually will say the flashback scene in this movie, for those of you who've seen it, I won't spoil it, but that key flashback scene between her and her husband is maybe my favorite scene of the year. I think it's so incredibly written, so incredibly acted. This movie's fantastic. The French do it again. Also, French court. I don't think I've ever seen a French court drama. Is wild.
I think it's like, I mean, the only court system that doesn't translate well to film is the British court system because it just looks so silly. I can't take it seriously.
I do still love a good British court drama.
But it's so stupid looking.
It is jarring when you see these grown men in 2023 wearing wigs from like the 1700s.
It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Like, we don't need to keep this. Like, what's going on?
Hard agree. One of my favorite episodes of Small Axe, that miniseries from, I was going to say last year, but I actually think it's 2020 at this point, which is fucking insane. That Steve McQueen miniseries, which is excellent. One of my favorites was the courtroom episode of that show. So I agree with you that the British courtroom looks so goofy, but it is really, I really enjoy it. Corey, should we get down to business though?
Let's get into it.
To defeat?
Yeah, the Huns. We're not talking about Captain Marvel today, guys, even though I know it just hit theaters. We're going to talk about it probably next episode.
So Corey has seen it.
I have
not.
Quick review. I liked it. I think it was good. Much better than the first one. Kamala Khan's actress, once again, I thought she was going to be the best thing about the movie, and she ended up doing it. The main three had a really good chemistry. The action, I thought, it's a very, very smart film where how they did the action. There's a lot of unhingedness in the film, which I personally enjoyed. I know there's going to be a scene that Che's going to fucking hate, but besides that, I thought it was a pretty solid 6.5. I'll say 6.5, and I don't mean that as a bad thing.
I'm very curious of the scene.
Oh, you're going to fucking hate it. You're gonna know exactly. You're not gonna. It's not gonna kill the movie for you, but you're gonna be very annoyed during it. I can just already know it. Just
I am, for a number of reasons.
You're gonna text me as soon as it happens.
Really desperate for this movie to be good. One, I'm spoiling our Loki talk a bit, but I don't think this is a surprise to anybody that saw it. Or who listened to our conversation about the first 3 episodes. I loved the season of Loki. It's my favorite Marvel thing in a really long time. It would be really fun if Marvel was good again. I also would love for this movie to be good because I think that the people online...
It's not a bad movie. It did nothing wrong.
Right.
And I will stand by that. It's just like, I think it was good. And I think I really did enjoy watching. I liked it a lot more than Captain Marvel. Liked it a lot better. I mean, obviously better than Ant-Man Quantumania. I'm trying to remember whatever other Marvel movies came out this year. Was it just Ant-Man and Guardians?
Is Doctor Strange this year, or was that last year?
I think that was last. Was that this year?
No, it's the end of last year. Multiverse.
Yeah.
Madness.
So I don't know. I think Marvel's had
or not even the end of last year. Wow, summer last year.
Fucking time. But no, yeah, I thought it was. I think maybe also just riding off the high of Loki last night probably also helped me be like, oh, I fucking forgot how much I like this universe. Yeah. And I think the way that this movie at least ended was like, oh, I forgot how much I'm excited again for Marvel.
I really hope I'm with you once I walk out of the theater on Sundays and I'm in the same place.
You're gonna hate this one scene. I cannot wait for that text message because you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's not even a bad scene. It's gonna annoy the fuck out of you.
Okay.
The only note I have about the film is the bad guy was unforgettable, but I don't think the movie was
Marvel with a bad
villain.
Yeah, no,
the funny thing enough about the end of it, I'm like, oh yeah, there was like a bad guy in it, but I'm like, I just didn't give a shit about it because I thought the other plots that were happening in the film were much more interesting. And I get you need somebody to punch in these films, but you're right. The Marvel problem with that was still very apparent, but
I continue to root for
Marvel. It didn't even bother me though. Funny enough,
Brie Larson and women making good movies to stick it to incels on the internet. Those are the three things that I really want to. I'm rooting for in this movie to succeed. I still, despite your review of it, which is I was gonna say rave review, but it's actually not a rave review. You're like it was good. I was still quite worried, but
I'm trying to be a better reviewer. If you could not tell in recent doing the podcast, I'm trying to be much better of like kind of describing my thoughts on things when it comes to actually going over things rather than being like I like it and don't like it. So I've been leaving a lot of middle ground with things where I'm a lot of nuance. I'm trying to be better about that.
Well, let's describe our thoughts on this first 2 episodes of the 2nd season of Invincible. This is for those of you who have forgotten, because it has been a long time, this is the Amazon Prime animated show starring Stephen Yeun, J.K. Simmons, Zachary Quinto. I really can't go down the whole list.
That's too many.
It's literally every time I do like the mouse over on the Amazon X-ray and there's like a new face and there's Sandra Oh, Oscar winner Sandra Oh's in this fucking show, Jason Mantzoukas, Gillian Jacobs. It goes down the line. Based on the Robert Kirkman book of the same name, Invincible, and it is one of the most unhinged, fun, brutal, violent cartoons that looks like it should be for kids, but don't let your kids watch this shit ever.
I mean, I think that's the best thing about the first. I remember we talked about this the first time around. My favorite thing about the first episode of it last year was watching it with someone who had no idea what the fuck it was. Because it starts off this is just like a very nice teenage
The animation style is incredibly intentional to look like all those cartoons you saw
in the end of the
on
episode,
Cartoon Network that were for
exactly
kids.
that.
Yeah.
And the end of the episode is Omni-Man brutally murdering the Justice League, and it was just like such a really just a great pilot for that.
Well, this season does sort of like the reverse of that, where it starts with Invincible, Mark, and Omni-Man in an alternate universe to the one that our show is set in, which I like that they sort of didn't. They don't really tell. It doesn't really anchor you at all. You just see Invincible and Omni-Man killing everybody. You're like, wait, did I forget what happened? I literally texted you. I was like, I need to go back and watch the first season because I don't remember us ending in this place at all.
Yeah, I was like, I remember Mark brutally. I remember I read the comic a long time ago though. Like this is like probably when it was like first coming out. So I want to say this
when
was
did
like
Invincible officially wrap? It was 2018. So it started in 2003. So we are 20 years from the beginning of the book, and we're even still, for a very long running book, 15 years, we're still 5 years from the end of it. So it's just, this is in the rearview mirror for a lot of people, including us.
Yeah. And I think like when I did read it, I think I didn't even finish it. I think I probably stopped reading it around, I want to say maybe like 2012. I think I was in college. I think I stopped reading it because I wanted just to wait for it to be collected.
I will say a bit like you, I burnt out on it. Or I don't know if you burnt out on it, but I stopped reading it. And a large part of that was because I burnt out on how fucking dark
it is. It is an emotionally exhaustive show.
In a way that I thought was sort of exploitative, which the show isn't, and I hope won't be, but I'm still tempering my excitement for the show because there is a point in the book where it really ticked over for me where I was like, they're just sort of abusing their character. Kirkman's just abusing his characters for the sake of shock value, and I really hope that we don't get to that point in the animated show, which I think has corrected a lot of things I didn't love about the book.
And I think that was like one of my points. I'm like, I feel like this run of the TV show is Kirkman going back and fixing a lot of things that he kind of wish he did better, or like kind of like handling things a bit better. Like I know that like I'm pretty sure in the first season like his friend comes out as being gay and not like in a really offensive way. I think as the book did it, he's actually giving Mark's girlfriend Amber a bit more of a character rather than just being like the nagging girlfriend. He's doing a lot of things better, I think, in this time around.
Well, I also think Kirkman is just a better writer than he was 20 years ago, which you would
absolutely.
hope. You would hope somebody like Kirkman evolves. This is not a surprise for anybody who's listened to the podcast for a while. I'm not like a huge Kirkman fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I certainly think he is like has a cultural cachet for a reason. For those of you who don't know, Walking Dead, one of the most popular shows of all time, is obviously based off of a Kirkman book, and is still sort of
I have
like
no idea
Walking
how
Dead
that
TV shows.
What is happening? Like what it just astounds me how people were just like this TV show about people in a zombie apocalypse is like as much of a staying power as it's been.
Well, did you realize that the original Walking Dead show ended in November of 2022?
I didn't know it was over. I didn't.
The original was over. I didn't realize it had been going for that long. It started when we were in fucking high school.
Yeah, I remember I had a banger pilot, but oh my god, the second season was just so brutal. I don't understand. Like people staying on for that show was like, you know what, man, more power to you. That shit was just.
I want to meet the guy because it is one guy who was watching the 24th episode of the 11th season of The Walking Dead.
Listen, someone's really into the Daryl show, and we just like the Daryl Dixon. I don't fucking know. His name was Dixon, right? Which is even weirder because it's a white dude from the South. I don't know, man. Listen, I just have to check and make sure that I'm not the only person who's having like a mental breakdown on this podcast every episode. Somebody else has to remember all this random shit that I remember, so it has to be you.
It's not gonna be me. I'm sorry, it's not gonna be me. But we're not talking about The Walking Dead. We're talking about Invincible. So Corey, what did you think of these first two episodes of this the second season?
I think as I said before, I really I'm digging how it started off with for sure because at least to me the animation got a lot better and it felt a lot more fluid. And the tone, at least for the first episode, I thought it was such a really good introduction of. I don't even know what the song was. I'm not a huge fan of the song, but I just thought it fit the song.
I did think that Radiohead song sucked, and that was like one of my first notes of the.
The Radiohead
thing that opens the first episode.
Yeah, but I think it's such a very good like somber. I wish they had a better song for it, but I at least I liked what they were going for with it. At least I thought it was a very good like somber tone, like really showing, not telling, like where Mark is at as a character, Invincible. On a personal level, rather than like kind of getting too far into it.
I think the show is written really quite well, and these first two episodes were written by Simon Rasiopa, who wrote a few episodes of last season, including the second one and the penultimate episodes, and both directed by Sol Choi, who's first time director on this show. I agree with you that I think we jump back in a way that I thought was really smart. I already talked about the intro where we get like this. Just thrown right into a universe we haven't seen where Mark and Omni-Man are killing everybody, and then after that ends, you get reminded of the tragedy that Mark has experienced. The Peter Parker Flash scene, basically, where the bully comes and hugs him in the hallway. I thought it was really on the nose and funny in a way that the show is quite aware of, and it was really is well done. I really liked that this show which it was one of my positives of the first season, is despite how dark and brutal it knows that you can't be sad all the time. It's got a lot of humor in it.
It has a lot of levity, especially like the other plot lines that are going along with it. Like especially with the bad guy plot line, those two the two mutant guys are very funny.
So good.
And I'm like mad they died. I was like, oh come on, these two dudes were great, and I like their little plot line with Sterling K. Brown's character.
You think they're done for?
Oh no, of course not. Yeah. No, they're fine. I think they're coming back. But yeah, I think the show does balance it well because I mean, even is like you can't just you have a character for all intents and purposes should be just like in a corner, just huddled up, and just crying for the next 10 years, and is like emotionally allowed to do that.
Yeah. And
having to write that character like still trying to go through the motions of life after your dad lied about who he was your entire life, murdered a fuck ton of people, kicked your ass, and then fucked off the planet, and you have to recover from that?
Well, also, remember, not just murdered a fuck ton of people, like, was only here with your mom and on this planet as, like, a fucking spy to take over the Earth and kill everybody and subjugate it. Like, that's the only reason. That's why I think a character that is often in these shows quite bad is the mother, girlfriend, wife character, and the Debbie Grayson, voiced by Sandro, Mark's mom, is in the first season one of the better characters. Her arc is believable and interesting, and she goes through. I mean, Mark is obviously the focus of the show, the titular character. She goes through the exact same traumas that he's going through, but maybe in a lot of ways even worse. This man that she thought was the love of her life says, I mean, it's reiterated again in this season. We get that line back. I thought of her more as a pet is devastating shit. And I love that scene where she's selling that house to the couple, and then we see I think, frankly, like over the top abusive husband. That I think that seems like a little bit ham-fisted, but still really well positioned where we see her react in a way because she's obviously very triggered by this, remembering her version of this trauma, which is turned up to the nth degree.
Yeah, I think honestly, like my favorite scene of the first episode was that, like her bit with Olga, because I thought that was just such like a very interesting dynamic between the two of them, especially like Olga. Just like I'm like, who the fuck is this again? And then I was like,
Olga character I did not remember existed.
I had to Google about her, and I was just like, oh yeah, like this woman coming over to like make this woman dinner is such an understanding, like unspoken thing from this random character that we don't know that well. But it's also like, yeah, this like how much it definitely must suck to be you, and at least someone else recognizing the fact is like you didn't know this shit, but this must be fucking miserable to be you right now, kind of vibe.
For those of you who, like Corey and I, did not remember who Olga was and didn't bother to Google, she is the widow of Red Rush, who is one of the Guardians of the Globe that we see Omni-Man rip to shreds to kick off the season.
I think he proposed to her right before he murdered, before he gets murdered, if I remember correctly in the first episode.
Yeah, the show is truly psychotic.
Truly.
But I think that the first two episodes did a really good job of just throwing us back into a thing. We joked about it. It's been 2 years, but I think that's a hard bridge to cross when you're like, you just know most people with the deluge of television and movies and TikTok videos that everybody's going to catch up on. Most people are just not going to go back and rewatch your first season and probably won't remember it. So you're going to have to do a lot of careful writing around the intricacies of the show, and I think they do a good job of introducing us back to the relationships of the show, which are clearly the most important part. Mark and his relationship with his friends and his girlfriend and his mother, and his relationship with his dad. He thinks deceased father, but
I don't think he thinks he's dead. I think he just leaves.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, everybody else thinks he's deceased, but
everyone thinks everyone thinks he lost. Like that's to me. It's even though like that's the harder part. It's like your dad seemed like a solid dude. And it's like my dad murdered a city full of people.
Yeah. But should
but
we
also
talk
like
about... Okay,
yeah. No, I was gonna say like if you're gonna take a big ass break on a show like this, though, at least they had the smarts to be like, it is a cliffhanger ending, but at the same time, it's such a brutal final episode that when you're like, you don't really lose that in the back of your mind. Like Invincible, how did that end? I'm like, oh, it ended with like the meanest of all ass whoopings of all time.
Yeah. Even if you don't remember the interest of the show, the things you really remember, you're never going to forget from the first season is like, one, this is like a brutally violent television show about an evil Superman, basically. and he tries to kill his son.
Yeah.
And that's how the show closes. So I'm with you that I think they're well aware of what people will have remembered from the show. I'm really interested to talk about the Adam Eve character, who is in a lot of ways like the secondary lead. She obviously gets that special that
We're not gonna
earlier this year.
I mean, we're not gonna go like really super into. She's like basically does become like the secondary character of the book itself, of like the Invincible comic book as like it continues on, and I think her as a character is so interesting because at least Kirkman had the foresight that we have to stop having the love interest potential love interest just be like powerless people who are always just like, just damsels in distress. And I kind of like that like Adam Eve always has her own shit, interesting powers, but she also, I mean, like, I'm happy that like they're letting her grow as a character as well. But yeah, Check, you continue on with your point.
Well, I like her stuff in these first episodes because the things we see with her parents is some of my favorite writing, because we get this side of superheroing we don't really see, like superheroing is a real thing, but we see her father struggling like an asshole. I mean, her father is like a true dickhead, but struggling with this, like, I can't be the provider anymore. I have been, like, in a lot of ways usurped by my own daughter in the silly power structure I have in my head. And then we have to see her,
the fragility of a white man's ego.
Yes, but then we also have to see her contend with the fact that, like, she doesn't know everything either. When we get that, like, that headline of the building she fixed collapsed and killed everybody. It's like, although I did think that was weird because it was like his point was that the city wasn't building there because the foundation wasn't secure. But weren't they? Weren't the construction workers literally rebuilding the building? She just did it faster.
Shut up.
I didn't really get that. But either way, the point still is, like, she did this thing that she thought was helping people, but is not experienced enough, or like,
you don't know everything. They're still teenagers in the end of the day.
Which is which is a lot of what the show's about. With these, it is what Spider-Man is about. It is what Miss Marvel is about. So on and so forth. These children who get unimaginable powers and have to contend with how they approach the world with it. It just so happens in this world, people get turned into mist a lot.
Yeah. This is the scariest version of like living in a superhero universe. Like, this is the one where you can fucking just die in. Like, the other ones
Do you
suck.
remember Brightburn?
I didn't get.
People liked Brightburn. I
didn't watch Brightburn. I read the Wikipedia synopsis. It was fine. The Wikipedia synopsis was fine.
I think this is like this is what I would have liked Brightburn to be. Brightburn is a horror movie where if Clark Kent had become evil instead of Superman as a kid, which is like
original.
Yeah.
Sorry.
2019 film, 16 years after the
one of the guns.
Invincible.
I think one of the guns wrote it, not James.
Brian.
His brother.
Gunn. Brian and Mark Gunn are the screenwriters on it. But it has, as I said at the beginning, absolutely no levity, and that is the thing that is really good about Invincible, is that it knows that you can't be mired in tragedy forever, which is why I think that Jason Mantzoukas' character is so important to this show.
Gotta have explosion.
Although the scene where he talks to his girlfriend and then she has an orgasm in front of him while she's having sex with a different man is over the top in a way that it was like, it got me a little worried. I was like, this is the kind of shit I don't need to be seeing in this show.
No, we don't want to you don't want to go full boys.
Yeah, if it becomes a caricature of itself, oh God. Please, Invincible. Like, I'm begging you. Don't become the boys.
At least they know who to like, because I think everyone just fucking hates Rex.
Yes,
so it's like, if you're gonna be an asshole to anybody, I think it's like no one feels bad for Rex.
Yeah.
Does he cheat on Eve in this show? Did that happen? Or take that out? I can't remember.
I can't remember specifically if he cheated, because I did not go back and watch the first season. I am going to check it back out again.
I should though.
He is a dick to her for sure. Exactly what he does, I don't remember. But I think this is we talked about this in the first season too. The show is so well casted, which is sometimes a weird thing to say about animated shows and voice acting. And we've seen the opposite with $1 billion film Super Mario Bros., which I think is so poorly casted. They just threw a bunch of names at it, and it felt like they just threw a bunch of names at this one. But I think all of them work. Stephen Yeun's incredible. J.K. Simmons and Sandra Oh also fantastic.
Well, the thing is, like, I can't. Only people I can truly tell who they are when they're speaking is J.K. Simmons, but that's just because that's his voice. But he's also a fantastic voice actor.
The one that I think he's really good, but I cannot separate his face from the character is Walton Goggins, who plays Cecil Stedman. He has one of the more distinctive voices. And as somebody who just went back and rewatched all of Justified, all I see or all I hear when he's talking is fucking Justified. And
I think my big thing about it is, like, I always read that character Nick Offerman's voice, and I feel like, you know, you're not supposed to fan cast people. I just kind of like always imagine him a bit more like less Walton Goggins, you know, but. I don't know, older, I guess, in a way, but I get that.
Nick Offerman, weirdly not in this show yet, but he'll show up, I'm sure.
I feel like he has to. We feel like he has to fit some character. Mm-hmm. I mean, he would have been an Omni-Man if they didn't get J.K. Simmons.
Yes, agreed. The a lot of really fun cameos too, including, I just wanted to point this out, it doesn't really have anything to do with the quality or the show, but the Reginald Val Johnson high school that we see that Mark attends. They have a Principal Winslow voiced by Reginald Val Johnson. Just again, there's like this show knows it's a little bit funny, which I really liked.
At the end of the day, it is a show about superheroes,
right?
And like it's like funny, and I mean everyone says a stupid name. I mean one of the guys' name is fucking Bulletproof. It's like, what are we even doing?
Great exchange though, where fucking Rexplode says that Bulletproof has a dumb name, and Bulletproof has to remind him that he's named Rexplode.
It's like, fair point.
I mean, I love the way they use the Invincible tagline. I think it will never get old, honestly. The like cutting to the title sequence every time somebody's invincible in the show. Really great. Invincible is an incredibly stupid name for a superhero.
Oh, it's horrible.
So is Omni-Man. So is Alan the Alien. Like, I don't know if Kirkman couldn't name characters and then just decided to lean into it, or if he thinks all these names are good.
I think he just leaned into it. I think he's like, let's just like, everything's just kind of just, I don't know exactly what he decided to base it off of, but it's very much just like, whatever, everything's like Omni-Man. It's like nothing the immortal, red, you know, it's just like, Duplicate's funny. I like Duplicate.
No, okay, Duplicate's funny in a vacuum, but if you also have Duplicate in the show with Invincible, Omni-Man, and Rexplode, you're like, fair. Maybe this guy doesn't know how to name characters.
It's weird that I hate the name Rexplode, but I think Duplicate works. I don't know what that says about my brain.
The thing I hate about Rexplode, and this shouldn't bother me so much, is that it's two names. His name is Rex space Splode.
I think that's what makes it
it's
dumber.
Supposed to be a first and last name.
Like, I think put a dash in there. Spider-Man has a dash.
It's true. Spider-Man does have a dash.
Respect it.
Anything else you would like to say about Invincible Season 2? I'm sure we will check back in.
No, nothing else. Like, I mean, guys, if you did forget this came out, I think it's come out with a really strong start. These first two episodes. I'm excited to keep going with it.
And I will say, if not that Amazon needs more recommendations, but if you avoided this show because you're like, I don't like cartoons, as you guys know, I'm not a big animated guy personally. I'm not opposed to them, but I really enjoy the show. I think sort of. Because it needs to be animated. The show 100% for a number of reasons could never be live action. I never wanted to see a live action Invincible show, and I think this is one of the best animated shows on TV right now.
Because I think
watches like 3 of them.
Even when the brutality is a bit much, I do think, I hate to say it, I think it is a bit necessary from time to time.
Oh yeah, yes, and like the show only works because the violence is over the top. And everything else meets it where it is, like all the action and the silly superheroes and all that stuff. All the genre stuff is really turned up to 11, and the human relationship stuff is all really believable and really true to life. And we see Mark is like tunneling into depression. He comes back home and he sees Olga and his mom talking at the dinner table, and like doesn't even want to interact with them, which is a very like human response to tragedy and trauma, and then flies out and goes down to Atlantis and fights a sea creature. Like, it just, the fact that the dichotomy of these two things, I think, is what really makes this show work well. And I hope it continues to be really excellently written. like I said, I'm still wary of the trajectory of the show because I think the trajectory of the book goes off the deep end pretty quickly for me. But
yeah, it like I think it becomes like with all of these things, it kind of just becomes like sci-fi, and then you kind of like hit that kind of point where it stops being superheroes and becomes a bit more of like intergalactic war kind of thing. But
yeah.
I don't know. I can think like there's a time and place for that. I mean, like I thought the Marvels was very much became a lot more of like intergalactic sci-fi thing rather than superheroes. And I think it has its time and place. And I wonder if the show can handle its transition away from like traditional superhero, not satire is the right word for it, into that sphere of a bit more like, you know, it becomes a bit better.
Yeah. Before we go to a break, I have a question
yeah.
for you that you didn't prepare for at all.
Sure.
Which is my favorite kind of question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think of the, frankly, limited adaptations for how prolific he is, Robert Kirkman, do you think this is the best Robert Kirkman adaptation? Just to remind people, this is, of course, we have Invincible, The Walking Dead, which we already touched on, and all of its various spinoffs. Outcast, which I liked the first episode of, and then thought the show got real weird and not great, as most Cinemax shows seem to do in that era. And then, of course, this year's, which I think you did love, this year's Renfield is based off of a Robert Kirkman, or written by Robert, or the story by Robert Kirkman, adapted from Dracula, of course. But
I gotta say, I think this was Invincible is probably my favorite book that he's written.
Oh, interesting.
So I think I was always kind of probably like leaning towards that.
I think I still prefer the Outcast book personally, but I will not say I'm not a big Kirkman guy generally, but Invincible's probably close up there for me.
Yeah, I think Invincible is probably my favorite. Mm-hmm. But oh my god, I didn't realize that his first comic was. I was about to make a joke about it. I'm like, I've been waiting for the parody about my actual favorite comic that he's written, Battle Pope. But I didn't realize that was his first comic. And ladies and gentlemen, don't ever read Battle Pope. It is everything that is wrong with comics and the medium. Yeah. It's just bad all around.
2000s comics in general. It was like something happened to us post Y2K during the Bush administration in the Iraq War, the second Iraq War. Something happened where all comics were really, really, really sexist and terribly drawn. It was like a decree that came down from the comic book gods. I don't know what happened.
This is like, if I like, just as a quick snippet of this is why it will never be adapted into anything. A hard-drinking, womanizing pope, condemned by God for his own evil ways, who is called upon action to save Saint Michael with the help of Jesus Christ.
I agree with you. The Battle Pope is dog shit. I will say never when it comes to adaptations, because we've made how many Garth Ennis television shows?
This actually, but the thing is, Battle Pope is more nuanced than The Boys.
And my
not
point
a high
stands.
bar. Yeah, not a high bar. Let's take a break.
We'll be right back.
Sabini's day's done. I'll protect you now. Oh, shut up. Stop fucking whinging. Use my razor blade. And a few complaints from the neighbours about the terrible fucking music. Do you want to tell them, or should I? This place is under new management. By order of the Peaky Blinders.
And we're back.
What's up?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about the man who came to save the MCU in more ways than one, and that is God of Mischief, beautiful British bastard Tom Holland.
Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston. There's too many fucking Toms.
Too many Toms. He's also British. He's also British.
They're all
also
British.
beautiful.
Everyone's British.
Everyone
except for Chris
British.
Pratt.
We wish we could give him away.
This is Loki season 2. Which finished its run yesterday at the time of recording.
And obviously we're going to be spoiling everything. So
yes,
just
if you have not seen the final episode of Loki season 2, get out of here, come back later.
Yet if you're interested in the show a little bit, it's fantastic. It's just a really, really good time, honestly. I think that was a series finale, honestly.
In order to do that, I need a address the fact that you keep disappearing.
Well, I keep disappearing. We don't have time.
You just disappeared.
I know.
And I can't keep looking at it because it's horrible.
What? I thought you said it didn't look that bad.
I was lying. It's terrible. It looks like you're being born or dying or both at the same time. It's freaking me out.
It's okay. It's okay.
really painful.
It's not that bad. I can handle it.
How does it look?
Well, let's start there.
Okay.
Is this, because I feel like we might as well get this out of the way. Is this the end of, well, two things. Is the end of the Loki television show? And is this the end of Loki in the Marvel universe?
I think on both notes, I think they left it open enough that if they wanted to return to these characters, they could.
Yes.
But I think that this is the end of the Loki TV show. Or at least this is probably where it should be the end.
I thought that they were going to officially announce that this was a series finale. But everywhere on Disney Plus app, on all their Disney marketing, everywhere it said season finale.
Interesting.
Which felt very intentional.
Yeah, and I think this is, also this is the second show where also, no, I'm not going to spoil that thing, so I'll be quiet about that. But,
because I remember when the final episode of Secret Invasion aired, Disney Plus said series finale.
I think, but they definitely were pushing that one as a mini series event.
Yeah, for sure.
But you are right though. It is weird that they wouldn't use that phrase, because I do think it's like they're trying to leave it open ended enough that if they wanted to get to these characters again, everyone's in a place where they're content, but we can reactivate them if necessary. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the point of it. I do see Loki being brought back into the fold in some capacity whenever Kang becomes a big enough of an issue. If there's a new Kang, like whenever there's the next new Kang, I think that's probably going to be at least, don't know how much of a Loki we'll get out of that. Maybe it'll just be a scene or two, but we could probably see the world tree throne that he is currently sitting upon in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is very intentionally open-ended. I would bet more likely than not that this is the last we see Tom Hiddleston in the MCU. I think very noticeably it did not say at the end of Loki, as they have as Marvel has become famous for doing. It did not say Loki will return. It did not say Kang will return. It didn't really tell us anybody's coming back. I would say for sure, I would say nearly 100% confident that we will not see Mobius again. That felt like a very nice but
it felt like a nice
ending for that character.
Bittersweet, but what a great character. We'll get into the cast in general, but I think you're right though. I think that is kind of, Mobius seems to be done. Who was really as much as I did like the rest of the TVA's cast, he really was the one that I would like to see again the most out of that crew. So, but I think that was pretty much like his finale as a character, really, because I couldn't really see. It seems like he's done with doing that job. So,
Yeah, and it never really Owen Wilson as an actor, his career, I think, because he's probably most famous for Wedding Crashers and oh my God, what is the
Wes Anderson stuff.
Well, I was gonna say other than Wes Anderson stuff, but obviously yes, the French Dispatch, Darjeeling Limited, Francis and Fox, all that stuff that he's also got some co-writing credits. But that was my point. Basically,
Zoolander,
yeah. I think a lot of people think of him as his Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Night. A lot of people think of Owen Wilson when they think of him, they think of pretty broad comedy stuff, but he is he's a pretty fascinating actor who pretty intentionally works with a lot of auteurs, and I was always surprised that he jumped onto the MCU when Loki's cast was first announced, and then you see Loki, and it is, I'm gonna say this, and then you can agree with me or not. I think this is very much like the most elevated thing we have in the Marvel universe right now, or maybe ever.
I agree with you.
I'm not even suggesting this is the best thing, but it certainly feels like the closest thing to prestige television art.
I think I will agree with you on that one.
Yeah,
it's definitely the MCU's Andor than bar none for sure. But I think I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, and I do know that Owen Wilson is currently credited as appearing in Deadpool 3 as Mobius. I
don't count that. Is it IMDb?
Yeah, I think he's
Yeah,
probably
don't
trust.
Don't trust the
cameo, if
IMDb.
anything.
Don't ever trust IMDb. Yeah, if anything, honestly.
Well, this is the Deadpool was the movie that brought us like the entire cast of like First Class just like in the background of the first movie. So
Still a pretty good gag.
yeah, I'm not, but I'm saying like Mobius could be just in the background when Deadpool's jumping through portals.
That's true.
Shit,
100%. I'm sure that film would get up to some shenanigans.
But let's talk about the conclusion of these final episodes, maybe the conclusion of this character in the show, because I think this was a really fantastic send off for maybe Marvel's best character when it's all said and done. He's certainly up there with Iron Man and Captain America.
Certainly. And I think for just to kind of put it out there, like, you got to look at it in a way. I feel like Iron Man and Loki have kind of had this kind of trajectory as characters from being like bastards into being like an actual hero. I mean, they both kind of have that parallel like sacrifice moment, like the very end of Loki had as well. But I think I will agree. Probably, I would not have said this before beginning the first season of Loki. Maybe not in the beginning of this season of Loki, but I think by the end of everything was said and done, he was truly a complicated but complete character.
Yeah.
To the extent of like it's like I enjoyed my time with you, but at the same time, like I think you've done enough to be like, this is your finale. You did everything as a character. Like you've gone through all the stages, and it just feels like you did everything right as a character. That it is okay to put this person to rest, metaphorically speaking. Especially with the way that because I didn't even know how they were going to end this last episode. I was convinced they just had to kill Sylvie. I thought that's what they would. I thought they were building up to that thing, that was going to be the whole, like, he has to do this killing and he knows he has to do it, but he's not doing it. And I love that they were able to twist that into making the ending that we got. And I mean, the whole reveal of the World Tree thing was just also, I'm like, oh, this makes sense of like with the Ragnarok, and Loki became the god of stories, kind of like how some of the Norse mythology would lead to that. And it's kind of a lot of that shit tied together, but also they made him far too powerful, and they gave him you can't give an engineer that much more power besides like that. So, the centuries later gag in the final episode got a hearty laugh out of me.
It's good. I think the episode
that was a good fucking joke right there.
I think that final episode is paced so well, just incredible editing. And I was with you that when we flashed back to that room with Sylvie, Loki, and Kang, the first time we see Kang at the end of season 1, Loki, which I will say, the sandwich ends of, like, for me, kind of this dark time in Marvel, basically starting with the final credits of Loki ending, and I was like, that's the peak of, I shouldn't say peak, Avengers Infinity War is like maybe the highest I ever got in Marvel, but that end of Loki where we see Kang and Jonathan Majors' incredible performance, which again, he's just so fucking good in this episode as two different characters. I was so happy to see cocky Kang back. That guy's he's so
much fun, and just seeing him mock, like, an actor mock his other performance is also very, very funny. And I'm like, it's like this, it's just really good, just all around good.
But when we get the sandwich of that, and then the end, we return to that room, and it's like, I think again the best the show is, where we flash back and we see Sylvie's face in the room, and I was like, oh shit, he's gonna have to kill her, and it feels that way up until he walks out into the bridge, and we don't know what's going on until obviously we see that final image of him sitting in the World Tree throne. But that scene in general, where that moment where we flashback is incredible, and then the moment where Majors freezes Sylvie, and we're just like, oh my god.
It's like
he could have done it forever. He should have done it in the first season. He didn't have to die, and you just realize this guy is a true incredible villain.
Just a complete and total bastard. When you remember, like, oh, I'll see you soon, you realize, I'm like, oh, this is what that motherfucker meant.
Yeah.
Like, last season, he was like talking about, like, oh, I'm not actually gonna die. Basically, I'm gonna create my own paradox, so you have to bring me back. He fucking had a failsafe for himself. That's such a fucking this is a fucking bastard.
And I want to shout out, director is Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who actually I think direct the final 3 episodes as well as the first one. So nearly the whole season is directed by the same directors, which is, again, unheard of for Disney, but I think is how, especially in the modern era, how you get really good TV, because they can have a distinct vision and they can continue that thought process throughout. That final episode, my favorite shots in the whole thing, which I think is a small thing, but it again, it's great character building and it's great storytelling, is where we're getting Loki flashing back and going back into that room over and over again and trying to find a way not to kill Sylvie, but stop her from killing Kang, or the one who remained. Is the shots of them fighting over his shoulder, and you see him just like lounging in the chair. He's just like waiting, or he's like playing with shit on his desk.
Just a goofy dude. He's just so like, it's just a fun, like, when we introduced him last year, I'm like, oh, this is not what I expected Kang to be like whatsoever. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, this is guy who's just kind of fucking bored and like been dicking around for centuries, upon centuries.
And I think the best actors, which I think Jonathan Majors and Tom Hiddleston, as we saw in their one-on-one scene in this show, are probably the 2 best actors in the MCU, bar Brie Larson. Maybe neither of these people are going to be in the MCU anymore. Who knows?
Yeah, seems like we're probably keeping Kang.
Yeah, let's. I think he's still fucking incredible. But I think the best actors know. You often get praise for great monologues, running around the scene, the Kenneth Branagh Shakespeare technique, being able to suck the whole room into you. And that is impressive, and I love it. And we talked about this a lot on the Ryan Gosling episode, which I'm just going to do a quick shout out to because I love that episode. Go watch that if you haven't seen it. But for me, I think the best actors can be in the backgrounds of scenes or can be saying nothing and can still be magnetic. The one I remember is when we see Loki comes back right after the Centuries later thing, and he seems to know everything, and he's just going fast, and he's completing people's sentences, telling everyone what's going to happen.
Honestly, that is my favorite trope.
It's so good, yes.
It's like one of my favorite types of like time travel, like shenanigans things. And I mean, like kind of even the reveal later on when like Kang was like, I thought you would know how to do this by now, and he does it again. I'm like, oh, this is just well done. This is just well done, good shit.
And we get in that scene where Tom Hiddleston's running around, and again, like it's an example of like an actor just eating the whole scene and being incredible, and Tom Hiddleston's great. But on the side of that scene is Jonathan Majors as Victor Timely in this case, which again, we gave Kirkman shit for duplicate. We got it. Victor Timely's awful, but whatever.
Victor Timely is horrible. I don't
horrible.
know. I think it's like his actual name too, which also bothers me too. And I'm like, I thought it was like a stage name, and I'm like, I think that's like actually his fucking name, and that awful. It annoys me.
But he's not speaking anything because everything is Tom Hiddleston interacting with people, and we just see him go back and watch the scene again. He's just doing all these intricate stuff that are so ingrained in the character. He's got these motions that are so precise, and Majors is just fantastic as Kang. And I'm so glad we went back to that room at the end of time, because I think that is the best the show is in a great show. But that's where it peaked again. The end of the first season is the peak. The end of the season, really, the peak is in that.
And room. I do like how like we were able to just like the bookends of like the end of that season. This season is very much just like we're back there again. Like no matter everything that he said, it all just led right back there. And it's kind of seeing these like all the steps.
Plan, right?
It's the entirety. What we've watched for these 6 episodes is basically was his plan to come back to life. He just didn't expect Loki to do the ultimate sacrifice. Like that's the thing. Like he like didn't account for this character to actually go on such like a journey of being like, oh, I'm gonna stop being a selfish bastard and be the most selfless person of all time. Yeah. Living in an eternity of just basically seems like kind of like having to forcefully hold together the multiverse. Doesn't seem very simple.
Yeah. Yeah, Loki gets the edge on Kang twice. And the first time we see it is when I love that moment where Loki freezes Sylvie again, and he's like, did you think this was the first time we had this conversation? And then Major's just the best move ever. He's like, it's so good. He gives him the tick mark. A lot of the reason why I would be sad to see Tom Hiddleston leave the MCU is because I think he does this thing that few actors in this universe are able to do, which is we all love the shit on Chris Pratt. I sort of feel bad for him for this part, but like he just doesn't have the gravitas
I thought Chris Pratt was actually very good in Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
He's good. He's good. He's
Really
good.
But he's not this kind of character. He's not even just playing this kind of character though. This isn't Star-Lord versus Kang is not an interesting conversation.
Well, I mean, even Star-Lord versus Loki, I just don't think that he can have these moments of real depth and the journey of Loki, as we talked about. And I think it is very intentional that the previously on to start this episode starts with a flashback of the first time we see Loki in the Avengers, or I guess not the first time we see Loki, but in the Avengers, where we hear Loki saying, like, I am a god, I will destroy the world.
This is my glorious purpose.
Right. And then to get to this version of this character who is like a true hero and makes probably the ultimate sacrifice to close off his character story arc is really excellent writing. And again, it's like what I love about the MCU. When the MCU is at its best, it is able to tell these incredible story arcs over the course of years that bring you real depth and imagination to characters. Tony Stark is obviously one of the first ones who goes from being a warlord mogul. Yeah, that's the right word.
Warmonger. Don't worry about it. I got you.
Got there in the end.
You were there.
Lord of War, as the Nicolas Cage movie is called.
What a good movie.
So fucking sick. And like a selfish billionaire playboy, and goes this whole journey, and as you said, makes the ultimate sacrifice to save the world, to save his loved ones. I'm
trying to think like who else is kind of left to do this whole like the verbal sparring that I'm sure we're gonna get up some more Majors monologues as it goes down. I mean, I'm like Cumberbatch, obviously, but I was trying to think. I feel like that must be the person I'm assuming will be doing the matching the wits kind of conversation with.
Yeah,
but they had to pick a good Mr. Fantastic.
I've been so disappointed with the Cumberbatch Strange movies that it's hard for me to. I mean, again, I hope it all turns around. I hope this is like the beginning of a real like.
It's been at least the actor / character.
Yeah,
I think that they have the capacity to do it. I believe that's what I mean.
I still think for me, if Hiddleston's gone, if Majors is gone. Even if they're not, I think Brie Larson is the best remaining actor. I think she is incredible and can be. She also has had a very weird few years where she's made the decision to like be in a fucking Fantastic Four, a Fast and Furious movie.
Everyone wants the paycheck. We don't judge anybody for those moves.
Sure, but I also was like, I thought she was going to be the next Hollywood starlet. Like,
she got her Oscar, right?
She got her Oscar early.
That's
and
probably
is like kind of coasting.
I think that might be it.
Which feels like it may also be happening to my boy Rami Malek, who I don't know what he's doing. Rami,
he's doing weird shit. That's what he's doing. He's in 3 minutes of Oppenheimer, where he gets his books knocked out of his hand. And
he's honestly good at Oppenheimer, but why?
He's good. It's just like, what the fuck is he doing there?
I find that. I said this again on when we did the first part of this Loki season 2. This gives me so much hope, but also kind of annoys the shit out of me about the MCU. Because it could all be this good. This show is fucking great. It's so good. I mean, I don't know if it's my favorite show of the year. I won't go that far. But it's certainly a contention for my top 10, which I just wouldn't have said about any Marvel shit for such a long time. And the fact that
it's just like, I understand why people get frustrated when they're kids when they're playing sports. It's like, I know you could be better.
Right.
It's like and when you show me these flashes of greatness and you make me remind me how much I love you, just like fucking Nick, just having like hanging out with Nick Fury again, like in a fun environment. I'm like, I forgot how much I miss you when you're fun, and not like Secret Invasion. It's just kind of like a back and forth thing, and it's just like
even Secret Invasion. That first episode really teased me that I was like,
pissed me off, man. It was such a good fucking episode.
They put Samuel Jackson and Olivia Colman in a room together, and they just let them cook, and I was like, oh, they figured out the formula, and then the rest of the show is. It wanted to drag me to hell. It was so boring. So
this
is what
we
have
Marvel,
coming up for
Marvel. Hire us. Just hire us. We would be great editors. We'd just be great. We would be great at shitting people's ideas down. We would be fine.
This is what we have coming up. So obviously the Marvels just dropped today officially. Corey has seen it. I'm seeing it on Sunday. For the closing out Phase 5, this is the end of our 2023 Marvel. There's nothing coming out this year, but we have Deadpool 3.
Okay. Is that next?
Mid 2024, yeah. Unless there's a show I'm forgetting. Oh no, there must. When's Agatha dropping?
Fuck if I know.
This is your job, Corey.
I forget that that's a thing. I don't know.
I watch the French movies that win Cannes, and you remember when the Marvel shows drop. I thought that's the deal we made.
Honestly, that makes me sound like I'm not holding up my end of the deal.
Okay, late 2024. So there's no official date. On
So there's nothing until
Diaries.
Deadpool.
Yeah, so Deadpool, July 2024. Followed after that is Agatha, if it actually drops in late 2024. And then the last thing that I think is on the schedule, officially on the schedule, is Captain America Brave New World. That's what we have so far.
That's what we have for. I know Blade's in development still. But at least, hey, listen, the only news that I've heard about it that came out this week is that Marvel officially gave it the okay to be rated R, which I said, why the hell was it not already rated R?
I think that Marvel is like Nintendo Lite in a lot of ways, where they're stuck in their ways and won't make even the best decisions for themselves because they just feel like they know better than everybody else, which is why everyone was so worried when they got Deadpool they were going to turn into like a PG-13 snooze fest. Luckily, it seems like they learned their lesson. I feel so bad for Kit Harington though. This man cannot catch a fucking break.
I think he cannot. That's truly. I just I mean the thing about the Eternals is, but I think what I will say about the Marvels, and I will not say anything else about it, anything more about it.
We will talk more about the Marvels in depth on next episode.
But it does, when I ended the movie, I walked out of the theater, I was like, oh, I'm excited to see what the next couple of years unfolds.
Yeah.
And especially hearing that Deadpool 3 is next actually is another, like, okay, yes, this is actually, like, let's kind of get back on track. Fuck this whole taking our time shit. Let's just go back to some big-ass shit again. I don't care. Let's just go back to Avengers. Fuck it. Let's just do it. I don't care anymore. No more meandering.
I understand.
I get why they did it.
Yes. And I think a lot of that was what they heard from the criticism, which I think is fair. I think
it is fair.
It feels like Marvel became like homework where you needed to see every single thing to understand every single thing before it. And then Phase 4 comes around and they're like, okay, or Kevin Feige really, who's the man behind the scenes making these decisions. I think he really makes the decision. Okay. So we just had an incredible run of 18 plus years of basically a continued storyline that we landed perfectly. People who are anti-Marvel, anti-superhero movies will never admit that Endgame is like maybe as good as that shit could have gone, really.
This is an impressive feat, and just all of it.
And the Russos have subsequently shit on their legacy by just doing bad movies and saying weird shit. But they really landed on that. They landed that one.
They did.
And then Phase 4 happens, and we have... I'm just going to run Phase 4 down people really quick for those of you who don't remember. Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, that's Doctor Strange, Thor, Love and Thunder, and Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Good.
I think that's a really, really, really mixed bag with some of the worst Marvel movies ever.
That is a very mixed bag.
And some really fun shit in there, for sure. But what it is really 6 completely disparate films. The one in there that I think is not, you can't really blame it because I think that was supposed to be canon and really extend the film, extend the MCU's overarching story, is Black Panther Wakanda Forever, of course, for extenuating circumstances. That
I do really feel like that was like, with the unfortunate surroundings of that film, I really do feel like that kind of might have hindered a lot of like plans. Because I mean, it was very apparent that T'Challa was supposed to be the next main character of this universe.
We've said before, there's a reason that he walks out of the portal at the end fight in Endgame. There's a reason that they did that.
Like he's the next, like it's supposed to be like he's the next step, and that's the whole thing is like he's the next big thing.
I understand how we got in this situation where it all seems sort of fucked up, and it is really truly a tragedy. It is on the long list of things that are tragic about Chadwick Boseman's death. The fall of the MCU is so fucking far down the list that it's not even worth talking about.
Let's not preface it by saying that. It's just, at the end of the day, this is stupid. It's all stupid.
Yes. But I just think like, I hope they learn their lesson because it, like we said, the thing that is really great about this Loki story is it starts in 2009.
Yeah.
And and not only it starts in 2009, and then it continues this arc in the first and second season where there's this beautiful connective arc between these two things. It's all these callbacks. We return literally to like the scene of the crime, and we get to expand the show. And I think Marvel has to realize what they're not is highbrow cinema. and they're
No.
not fucking 80s action movies either. Like they're not making Sylvester Stallone blockbuster hits. What they're gonna have to be good at is like really weaving together this adventure, for lack of a better word, over the course of years, and that's how they're gonna be their best. I have my ticket to go see. This is completely unrelated in a lot of ways, but it isn't. Also, I have my ticket to go see Next Goal Wins on Thursday, which is the next Taika Waititi film.
Oh, Next Goal Wins. Didn't hear
Yes.
what you said.
It has reviewed quite poorly. And
Was it a Taikai problem, maybe?
I think more and more about Thor: Love and Thunder, and that movie, I think in a lot of ways is like the real like tipping point of when this all gets real bad. Eternals is a shit show for a number of reasons, and I don't really know what happened there. And then a year later,
I think I don't want to blame the creators, but I feel like some people cooked and some people maybe shouldn't have a bit too much. You know what I mean?
on Thor: Love and Thunder or on Eternals.
Maybe both.
Well, I think Eternals is weirdly like, I don't really know. One,
What the fuck with that movie?
well, I just don't know why Chloe Zhao wanted to make this movie, and two, why Marvel wanted her to make this movie. Chloe Zhao, one of the most exciting directors in Hollywood or in the
But
world.
not like a sci-fi, not that. It didn't seem to fit. Like, why wouldn't, like there's like not some grounded character she wanted to make or something like a lot more down to earth and not space aliens with like you have to fucking introduce about, it should have been a TV show. We've been saying that since the beginning, but like it just didn't fit. And I like it. And I like Marvel. God, I like Marvel. And I like all the properties they have, but it's just like, what are we picking and what are we doing when we're picking these things? And like Love and Thunder, I think will like kind of stick with me the most because of how much I fucking love the run that it's based off of.
Yeah.
And I love Taikai, but it's like my
One
brother.
of the worst things about that movie is how they fucking demolished Jane Thor.
That's what I'm saying.
They gutted it.
That's what I'm saying. That's like, it was that, and also the misuse of Christian Bale was also just like such like, and we just spent
I
a
still think
lot
it's so
of.
funny that Christian Bale was like, I've never seen superhero movies. I don't even know what superhero movies are. I just showed up and acted, and then I went home.
I'm like, hey, that's fucking fair, brother. Dude, take your paycheck. But it's just like, we spend so much time doing random shit in that film when we could be talking a bit more about this character who's literally dying every time she's like powering up. Yeah. This guy who's going on this long crusade in the memory of his dead son. But we're focusing a lot of time with Russell Crowe as a drunk Zeus. Which, hey, that's fun in a different movie, but like, let's not put them all in fucking together, you know?
Yeah. Which is
my rant.
to my overarching points and why I brought up all of these Marvel things is that like I think the way that this ended really sort of like literally you see Loki sort of like bringing the world back together, and it feels like in a lot of ways they've really pressed the reset button and have reformatted and really figured out what's going to happen with this universe going forward. I hope. And now Deadpool is going to be I think like a separate thing. I think it's going to be it's not going to be like MCU. Maybe. I would be surprised if it's...
At this point, I have no fucking idea where they're going.
But I am, for the first time in a while, quite excited to see what Marvel does next, going forward. And I loved Loki. I loved Loki a lot.
I love Loki. I loved Loki a lot, and I'm happy to say, like, it's just really good to see like a piece of television or a piece of like work where it's like through and through. Like, I had no complaints. It's had a fucking good time. It was just a fun, good fucking time, and I just enjoyed it for that. Nothing like no glaring complaints. I'm sure I could pick it apart if I want to, but like,
yeah, I mean, it's
fun.
It's not worth saying because obviously I think this has been pretty well documented. It doesn't need to be reiterated every time, but like I think this is all like in a vacuum. Like, we're talking about Marvel in a vacuum. It's just not the best television show of the year. Marvel's never going to make the best movies. There just isn't. But that's okay. I don't need these things to be. I didn't need Loki to be Succession.
No.
Or The Bear.
No.
But
it's like the movie goes up to like what it does, and I think like since it's right and fresh on my mind. I just saw it. Like the Marvels. Like what was the mission statement of this movie?
Right.
We want to use these 3 characters and we want to see them interact and have fun together and go on a space adventure.
Yeah. Punch a
It did
couple
its objective.
things.
Punch a couple things.
Yeah.
Make some laughs.
Right.
Go home. There's a cat. Whatever.
Yeah.
And Nick Fury's there. Hi. And like, they checked all those boxes. Yeah. Loki could have just been Loki being kind of a dick, and I'm like, this is fun. But they put Loki in a time travel show starring opposite Owen Wilson, and they go on this character journey. Also, they kind of did talk about the baby Hitler debate in the middle of the episode, which was pretty like, whoa, that's a pretty.
Well, it's just really great writing and like.
I love that. I did like that scene a lot.
Reminded me a lot of there's this episode of MASH. Stick with me, Corey. There's an episode of MASH where
they both have Hawkeye. So.
a number of people are hiding in a bunker for the soldiers to save their life. They can't be discovered or they're gonna die. And somebody has a baby, and the baby starts to cry, and she basically smothers the baby to death. And it is the first time I heard about this episode was on this episode of Radio Lab called the Bad Show, where they talk about what it means to be bad and what it means to be good. And it's like that's what I thought we were approaching with Sylvie. And then we have this whole that's what Loki's journey is at the end, right? Is sacrificing somebody for the greater good worth it? And what happens if you don't? And Morbius makes that. Morbius, I did it again.
I was gonna let you ride with that one, but
Morbius makes that.
I know
mistake.
Morbius is always on my brain too.
And he has to he contends with it for his entire life. We see that's why this character is so terrified of returning back to his real life, because he doesn't really want to contend with his humanity ever again. That line where he says, "The way I live with it is scar tissue," is just great. It's so well written, so well acted, and yeah, I really thought that we were gonna have to watch Loki kill Sylvie, and I don't know. I thought,
and then listen, it requires sacrifice. He just kind of made the sacrifice that a character like Loki on paper shouldn't even consider making. Right. Hell, I didn't even consider that being a possibility.
It would have been hard to predict that one, wouldn't it? It'd been hard to be like, Loki's actually is going to destroy the loom, and he will grab all of the time strands and walk through the portal and sit on the world tree.
Well, Che, look underneath your seat. There's an envelope. And I've written down this exact thing. It's postmarked.
Any more praise we want to heap on this, frankly?
No, but if you somehow sat this entire thing and didn't go see it, go watch it. I'm so sorry we spoiled it for you, but
no, don't say sorry. They did this to themselves.
You could have paused this. But no, I got nothing else to say. I really, really liked Loki. Thought it was a really, really solid show, and I'm happy to have seen it stuck the landing. I like when shit's good. I like doing this show when we actually can be like, something is good and not just be mad about it. Yeah. It's good. It's a good feeling.
It's way better this way. It's way
better. The show's much better with an optimistic mindset. It's funny when we're really mad, though. But
I think it's obviously the two ends of the spectrum are obviously the best. When it's complete dog shit or when it's really, really good. The worst is the middle, but I still prefer when something's really great, because I think it's just more fun to talk about why something succeeded versus why something failed, except for in a few weeks when we talk about why the Santa Claus failed, because it stars the snitch Tim Allen. That will be a lot of fun. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube, to the podcast, all over the place at Next Time on Pod if you want to see that episode, which I guarantee you do. Also, we will be talking about Do a Powerbomb, the excellent book by Daniel Warren Johnson. And last but not least, coming up next episode, we're going to be talking the Marvels, going to be talking some comics, I'm sure a number of other things. Anything else for the people, Corey?
Nothing else from me.
I've been Che.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you guys next time.